Do you think that J.D. Vance is the guy for 2028?
Yes. Yes, I do.
What do you think, or what vulnerabilities do you see that the Republican Party needs to work on ahead of 2028 or even ahead of the midterms next year? Because I think that we would be somewhat indulgent if we said everything's perfect, everything's great. We still have, a grip on the American people, because I think that, anytime we've done this before where we thought there was going to be this red wave, we lose it. And I think that things are going well in this country, but I see some vulnerabilities. I see some soft spots that need to be worked on. What do you think that we need to do headed into next year and headed into 2028 to make sure that those blind spots are seen?
So I am a millennial and I have kids. I have a wife. I'm happy. And I can tell you the single most difficult thing for me starting off my young life and getting ready for a family and marriage was buying a home. And that was a couple of years ago, pre-COVID. I mean, I had it good in comparison to the kids today. Home ownership is the ball game. Home ownership unlocks the door to the American dream. And let me explain why. Not just because it is the #1 hold of value and generational wealth. It's owning land and property. It is a wonderful thing to pass on to your children. We should normalize that more. But also, Tommy, because it's how young kids get started in life and families getting married and having children. I was just at the Clemson University, and I go and I speak on college campuses, and I ask the young frat bros, you want to be married? And they're like, yeah, man, they tend to be right wing. They're dudes. They want to get married one day. I'm like, you want to bring your wife home to the frat and on your wedding night? And everyone laughs because it's absurd. Of course not. A young man in his bones knows he wants to bring his wife home to his house, to his home. He's a king. He has a queen. And the women in the audience, I say, you want to be mothers? And they all say yes. And I say, you want to bring your newborn child, your first newborn child, home to an apartment building with 100 strangers, single room apartment, with a dog, that craps in the elevator when you're going down? Like, no, of course not. They all laugh because no, of course not. You want to raise your child in your home with a fence and a yard and a tree with a tire swing on it. And this is natural. It's in our bones, but we've robbed that dream, Tommy. The average age of a homeowner, first-time homeowner, is 40 years old. What? Well, that's well past the age of optimum fertility for a family. It's well past the age of most people, the optimum window to start a family, to have the energy to do that. We're robbing that. The average age of a home buyer, all homes in America, is 60 years old. We have completely flipped this on its head. And it is a critical problem for the movement. It's something that JD has to address, and the nation must address. It is the robbing and theft of the American dream by our leaders, by making homes totally and completely unaffordable for young people. This is something that I've been working on with the administration. It's something I've been working on with Turning Point USA and other groups, AFPI, for instance. And we are going to, I believe, deliver generationally for young people to get their lives started and seize that American dream. The final thing here is that Charlie predicted this, Tommy. Charlie predicted that if you steal that capacity for people to buy into our nation, they'll go communist, and they'll do it in a generation. They'll do it so fast. And we are seeing it now. What did Mondami promise? Rent controlled, free apartments, free grocery stores. The government is daddy. That's what he promised. And that's going to get rolled out around the country. So we better have a damn alternative to that. And so that's what J.D. Vance must address to win in 2028, domestic policies and the restoration of the American dream for young people.
I think young people also have to realize that when you have the free housing or the rent stabilized everything, what that essentially is a Section 8 for everybody. And those same people that you talk to on college campuses that don't want to live in a frat house or don't want to live in a one-bedroom apartment with their family probably also don't want to live in a Section 8 type situation. But you got to remind them that that's what it is, because when you talk to people that are younger that exist on TikTok or Instagram, they think that rent stabilized or free apartment or free housing or whatever it may be, they think it's this luxurious high rise, or they think it's this beautiful home with the white picket fence. They don't realize that free for all or reduced for all means you're all in Section 8. So I think that would be a good reminder for them. I'm also wondering what you think about this, too. I think that you're right about home ownership, and I think that that is still the mark of the American dream. Two things on that. I think young people have also been told that they need to live in big cities, that they have to live in New York City, or they have to live in LA, or they have to live in DC. And there's affordability in other places of this country where you can afford a home and you can have a beautiful suburban or even in some way residential life. It just might not be in the heart or the center of the city. So do you think that there's a part of that where there needs to be some realism with Gen Z and young people that, you might not be able to afford all of that in New York City, but most people can. Most people can't afford to have a nice place in New York City or even Long Island or LA. Like most people can't afford it. But you probably can, like somewhere in Ohio, but they don't want to be in Ohio. I think there needs to be some realism injected into Gen Z.
I could not agree with you more. I think it's a really wise conversation to have. I think you have to be realistic. My generation, again, I'm a millennial, kind of like smack dab in the middle of the millennial generation, raised on Friends, right? And Seinfeld. These are like some of the earliest sitcoms that I remember. And that was all about making sure that we venerate that style of living in an apartment in New York City. But that's not the way that most people live, and certainly not the way that most people want to live. A lot of people are forced to live that way because of their job. But now there's decentralization, quite frankly, of the economy that allows many people to live wherever they want to. And there's a remarkable thing that's happening, Tommy. What you're seeing is the wholesale and complete population collapses of major large metro areas in America. Now, this is a crisis for the left. I have some data for you. In San Francisco, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and New York City, there has been a decrease of nearly 50% over the last 20 years of children 5 and under entering the school system. Now, what does that tell you? It tells you that no one there is having children. No one there is having kids. No one in those large metro areas and a number of others on the list, there's about 15 on the list, are deciding to procreate or to raise their families in those metros. San Francisco was the #1 loss of school-aged children, small preschool-aged children. The gainers of those children and family creation is Austin, Texas, #1, 100% increase. Many cities in Florida, Nashville was near the top of the list. And a lot of these families, I think, are living in areas in states that are allowing for suburbs to be built, for nice communities to be created around Nashville. That's certainly happening here in Tampa. It's happening all over Florida, and building is gangbusters in Texas. Obviously, Dallas, Houston, and Austin are big cities on the list where families are creating, where the incidence of young school-aged children entering preschool and school has skyrocketed. So the left-wing cities are dying, and cities that allow for home building and allow for family creation and are rightly safe for families are the ones that are flourishing. And so it's great to see it play out in data. I think it's very common sense. But yes, kids need to be taught that the lifestyle of nihilistically renting in a high rise in New York City, that's actually hell on earth. I did that in Washington, D.C. It's not great. It's not great. It was one of the worst experiences of my life, in fact. Maybe they'll have to learn the hard way, but most people kick right back out to the suburbs when they do.